Okay, you guys, in this video we're going to talk about the difference between chemical and physical changes. Before we get started on changes, let's just make sure you know what a change is. If we talk about a change versus a property, so a property, remember, is something that describes an object. So a change is something that has happened to that object, okay? So a change is something that has happened, and a property just describes it, okay? So now, okay, if we have a physical change, its physical change is when we still have the same object at the end. And a chemical change is where we have made a brand new substance. So let's go ahead and brainstorm for a little bit here together and come up with 5 examples. And then you're going to come up with a few more of your own. So, physical changes. We know at the end of a physical change, you have the exact same substance. So the first thing I'm thinking about is if I just cut a piece of paper. If I cut a piece of paper, I still have paper, but I now have 2 pieces. Physical change. If I'm hungry and I go to make a salad, okay, it doesn't matter what I put in my salad, but if I just chop up a salad, the process of chopping it up, chopping up the lettuce, tomatoes, onions, anything that I want to put up in it is physical change. I still have all the individual ingredients, I just made them smaller, mixed them together. That is a physical change. Say I go to the store and I want some fresh ground coffee. That process of grinding the beans is a physical change. Still have coffee beans, they're just ground up smaller. The next one I thought of, ice cream melting. So it's a hot summer day, you guys go get ice cream and it starts to melt. Well, it's still ice cream, still tastes the same, but it's in a liquid form now instead of a solid form. So that is a physical change. Making Kool-Aid. I take the ingredients, the water, the sugar, and the packet. I dump it in a pitcher, I stir it up, it dissolves. So you actually don't see the individual particles anymore. So this one is tricky for some people. If that stuff disappears and dissolves, but you can still taste all the individual ingredients, that is a physical change. Okay? Now, I want you to see if you can fill up the rest of the lines on your own with your partner. We're going to go ahead and try to come up with some chemical changes now. So here's my examples for chemical changes. Remember, they have to be stuff that after the change, you have a brand new substance. And I'm going to give you some evidence of that. So when we mixed baking soda and vinegar, we got a fizz. A fizz, or bubbles, that is evidence of a gas being made. So we took a white solid and a clear liquid and we made a gas. So that was evidence that we made a brand new thing. So that is a chemical change. If you have a bonfire or you burn anything, okay, you're taking wood, okay, you're lighting it on fire, and what comes out the other side is ashes. It's obviously something brand new, right? So that is a chemical change. Have you ever used those hand warmers? You know the ones I'm talking about. You can buy, they're little pouches, and when you open them up and you rub it, it gets hot. You deer hunters know what I'm talking about. You probably use them to keep warm in your deer stands. Maybe your feet, maybe your hands. That is a chemical change. It's called an exothermic reaction. We'll get to that later in the year. But that is evidence of a chemical change when the temperature changes. Likewise, those in the first aid kits, those ice packs, when you break it open and it gets cold, that is evidence of a chemical change. So when you have a reaction and you can feel it and it gets hot or gets cold by itself just from the reaction, that's a chemical change. How about cooking? So now we're not talking about chopping up that salad like before, but we're talking about cooking with heat. That is a chemical change. So my example to you is grilling a steak. So you take a red piece of meat, put it on the grill or put it in the frying pan, and you see it change color, goes from red to brown. You also see it change texture. And I use this example because everyone has a specific way they like their steak cooked. Maybe you are a well done kind of girl. Maybe you are a medium rare kind of guy. Or maybe the opposite. I like mine medium. But if your steak is overdone or underdone, you can tell because it tastes funny to you. Okay? That texture has been changed. The more cooked an object is, especially a protein or a meat, the more that protein is broken down, and so the texture is going to change. Okay? So that is chemical change anytime you add heat to food. Okay? See if you can fill out the rest of those lines with your partner. Now I'm going to do the last one with you. Let's come up with a rule to determine whether a chemical or physical change has occurred. And I would ask that you look at what you have at the end of the reaction. Okay? If at the end of the reaction you have made a new substance, then you have a chemical change. If you still have the old substance, you have a physical change.